Good morning. I'm Shirley Thompson, your host, and welcome to Unity of Vancouver. We warmly welcome all faiths, all peoples, and all lifestyles. Unity of Vancouver is situated on the ancestral, unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, who have lived here since time immemorial, and it is here that we work, live, and learn together. And our mission at Unity is to build personal and community well-being through universal spiritual teachings. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Reverend Terry Shea.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be back with you. I'm going to talk to you today about a world that works for everyone at a time when probably many of us feel that it's not working for a lot of people and maybe not even working for us. So I hope I can inspire you today and give you some tools to work with as we navigate this challenging time together. As we navigate these challenging times, the theme that has emerged for me is prayer. And for those of you who don't know, I was trained in the science of mind tradition, Dr. Ernest Holmes. And Dr. Ernest Holmes, along with Judge Thomas Troward, and many of you have never ever heard of this man, but he was a high commissioner to India at the turn of the 20th century, and was a student of Hinduism. And he was fascinated by the idea of the oneness that so permeates Hindu thought. And he developed a system of prayer, which then Ernest Holmes picked up on. It's called spiritual mind treatment. And the theory is that our minds can get the flu or any other different ailment. And just like you'd go to the doctor for a course of treatment, you would actually go to a spiritual practitioner, someone who prays, for a treatment for your mind. And so rather than lead you through a meditation today, I want to lead you through a prayer. This is a treatment for divine love. And what I want to do is just give this to you and understand that you will hear this with parts of your mind that you're not conscious of. It will go in there, it'll be in there, and when you need it, just like your immune system, when you need it, it will spring into action and bring you to a state of peace and joy. I begin with a quote from Dr. Ernest Holmes, who says, "Love knows only love, and only love knows love." The wellspring of love runs deep. It is what is. It is all there is. Love is my God. It is what I am made of, and what I am made for. Love is the self-givingness of life to me. Love is, in fact, the giving of myself, that I return to life, my life, all life, past and present. Love is the very evolutionary push of the explosion of stars in the path of a blade of grass through concrete. Love is the generations of oak trees from a single acorn. I am that love expressed, and I am expressing right now. Today, I remember that growth, shift, change and struggle are love, seeking to express, finding a means to bring the love that I am into my conscious awareness, inviting me gently, and sometimes not so gently, to listen to the voice that sings and sings. God is the love that I am. Today I hear that voice, and I join in the wonder-filled duet with my true self and deliver my song to the world. I am the love that God is. I am singing my song of love, even in my darkest moments. With every breath I breathe, with every look, every gesture, every thought, love is being expressed through me, and I can do nothing to stop it. And so I listen to my voice singing the love song of God, and I hear all of the voices joining me in chorus from my past. In this moment, I hear the music of the spheres, the great Om of the turning universe humming along. Love is, I am, and so it is.
Be thou my vision, O joy of my heart, not be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best thought, by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my light. Be thou my wisdom, my calm in all strife, I ever with thee, and thou in my life. Thou loving parent, thy child may I be. Thou in me dwelling, and I one with thee. Riches I heed not, nor the world's empty praise. Thou my inheritance, now and always. Thou and thou only, first in my heart. My love, my heaven, my treasure, thou art. My love, my heaven, when victory is won, may I reach heaven's joys, bright heaven's sun. Heart of my own heart, whatever befall, still be my vision, O lover of all. joy of my heart, not be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best thought, by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my light.
My intention as a minister has always, well, not even just as a minister, throughout my life, has been that everyone have an experience of the presence of God. That's about as close as you're going to get. I want to begin with two quotes today. The first one I'll share with you is from Dan Brown's book, Origin. Humanity has entered a period of almost unimaginable ambiguity and complexity, and will require faith and moral guidance now more than ever. Direct quote from the last chapter of his book, a book which inspired this talk, actually. And the next quote is from Myrtle Fillmore. And she said, "God is life. We make that life into living. God is love. We make divine love into loving." Isn't that great? God is substance. We take the substantial reality and we bring it through into the manifest world. It seems to me that's a huge agenda. It's not any smaller than the agenda that the Centers for Spiritual Living set for themselves a number of years ago when they penned the Global Heart Vision, most of it coming from Michael Beckwith. And in that Global Heart Vision, they said, we see a future, a world that works for everyone. Well, I think we can say that there are 51% of people in the United States today who now think that the world is going to work for them. And there are 49 who are absolutely convinced it isn't. So the question around this whole thing of the world working for everyone is that true? I mean, are we really creating a world that works for everyone? Is it true? Do we believe it? Or are we simply fooling ourselves? Or maybe it's a bit of wishful thinking. Or maybe it's that worse than wishful thinking, hope. But none of that has to do with faith. Do we actually know that it is happening? And if we do, how do we know it's happening? Well, I'm going to throw you into a little bit of a new dimension. Because I'm absolutely convinced that the world, as it exists, is working for everyone. So let me begin with the story. I'm Irish. We love stories. So here's the story. A young African man in his village in Africa, where circumstances are not really horrible. I mean, it's not Gaza, it's not Bucha, but times are tough. And one of the things there is that there's no doctor. And so this young man thinks about this for a second, and he says, I want to be a doctor and help my people. Short time later, he decides he's going to walk out of Central Africa to the coast and find out a way to become a doctor, which he does. And then he makes his way across the Atlantic, and he gets landed in the United States, and he gets supporters. And sure enough, years later, he is a doctor, and he returns to Central Africa. Now the question is, how come him? They were all struggling with the same conditions. They all had the same possibilities. They could all walk. They could all make their way. Why him? And the answer is very simple. As Dr. Raymond Charles Barker said, consciousness. 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 That's all there is. The ability to see that that is a possibility for myself and create that little piece of the world that works for me and then in turn works for my community, that is how the world works. The question is, how does that work? Now, there are a lot of woo-woo out there who will say, well, consciousness is it's the vibrations of the universe. It's the guides. It's, who knows? It works because of the first law of thermodynamics. And the first law of thermodynamics is that energy is expressed. That, as a matter of fact, the foundation of life on earth is that energy should be expressed. And if you doubt it, then let's go to the Bible. In the beginning, God said, "Let there be light," and light was. Let there be light, and light was. That is the expression of energy. That is what the world is about. Each and every one of us, we are living expressions of energy. Now, the interesting thing about expressing energy is that it creates a certain amount of chaos because energy is constantly breaking down. And so we end up in a world where perfection might have been over here, but now it's slowly dissipating. And how is it slowly dissipating? Well, the famous physicist Ilya Prigogine coined the term dissipative structures. And what he said is this: energy, to be expressed, needs a form. But that form, by its very nature, must, after it is formed, begin to break down so that the energy can be expressed by the breakdown of the form. And so what is happening in each and every one of us, let me ask you, how many people remember Dr. Ben Casey? Remember Dr. Ben Casey on television, right? Well, for those of you who are too young to remember that, it's a TV series from the 60s. Black and white. I just watched the opening minutes of it on YouTube the other day. I can't believe it's actually there. But in it, the very first moments is a hand. Does anybody remember this? Writing on a blackboard. Symbols. Man. Woman. Birth. Death. Infinity. Do you remember that? It's the voice of Sam Jaffe. That little symbolic representation is what we are. It's the dissipative structure of us, each one of us. Every single living human being is, by its very nature, a dissipative structure. We're falling apart. Some of us more than others. Some of us more quickly than others. But the bottom line is, from the moment that we come to the planet, that very first moment of the creation of who we are as a being, as we come out of the womb, we begin our path towards death, to dissipation of who we are. The energy of procreation, man, woman, birth, is a unit of order. Another human being coming to the planet and then dispersing his or her energy into living. And these pockets of energy and structure are constantly breaking down, and chaos is coming into being. The Americans are having an experience of theirs. Don't you be fooled. Ours is not far behind. Because that is the very nature of it. So Dan Brown, in telling his story, wanted to answer the two most important questions that we all come to at some point in our lives, and that is, where did I come from and where am I going? And his story is about someone who wanted to prove that God was not needed for the process. Two scientists by the name of Miller and Urey at the University of Chicago in 1958 decided that they would put some chemicals into a test tube. They would bombard them with electricity, heat them, and then cool them repeatedly until they could create life. 1958. That experiment is ongoing to this day, and you can look it up. It is ongoing to this day. And they have created some amino acids and nothing resembling the DNA that is required for life. Now, there has been a computer model done to say that if this experiment continues, they will eventually create human life. I think at last report, it's going to take 7 million years. Beginning to sound curiously like creation and evolution. I'm reminded of a joke. Scientists similar to Miller and Urey came to God and they said, by the way, God, we found out how to create human life, and so you're no longer required. And God said, really? Why, that's fascinating. He said, tell me, how do you do it? And they said, well, it's very simple. We just take a handful of dirt and put it in a test tube and heat it and blah, blah, blah. And God said, well, show me. And so they went to show him, and he said, well, wait a minute. Get your own dirt. We might also say, or in this case, get your own chemicals and your own laws of physics. And by the way, I have already patented the laws of thermodynamics 1 and 2. You see, the complexity of human life is something that we're constantly trying to tease open to understand what it's about. Joseph Campbell, who is a huge inspiration to me, said at one point, we start through life and get to midlife thinking that our life is like the light in the light bulb. And that without the light bulb, there's no light. We think about our consciousness, which I began with, as that light within the light bulb. But once we pass midlife, and those of you who have passed midlife, which we now think is probably around the 50 or 60 years of age, once you've passed midlife, you begin to realize that the bulb is simply the vehicle for the consciousness. You, I, we all are the light itself. And after midlife, we stop confusing ourselves with our bodies and begin progressively to understand that we are more than that. We begin to leave behind the patterns that we developed, how to find a partner, how to have a career, how to be successful, how to. We begin to leave those behind in favor of something else. And that something else is the code that is part of consciousness. And codes are interesting because they're purely intuitive and they have an aspect that is, how shall I say, pregnant with mystery. There are codes embedded within codes, within codes, within codes in our lives. Those codes have an intention and they possess meaning. Because the two questions, where did I come from and where am I going, have a very important question in the middle that people don't ask until after midlife, often. And that is, what does my life mean? Or does it have meaning? After midlife, you begin to ask yourself questions like, is there something you won't tell yourself the truth about? Or what about this one? Can you identify a role which you no longer have a strong preference for? Or this one, are you aware that you are opening up to a more authentic version of yourself? And people in your life are beginning to experience you differently. Those questions all come from a book called Hidden Blessings by Jet Saris. These questions, and many like them, are prompting you and I and all of us to look for meaning in the midst of all this stuff that's going on. What does this have to do with a world that works for everyone? Well, I'll tell you. The other night, I was lying in bed thinking of my psoriasis. I have pretty significant psoriasis. And I was thinking of that psoriasis as a dissipative structure. Something seeking to disperse energy in accordance with the law of thermodynamics. Now, you're free to substitute any ailment or any challenge or anything that's going on in your life for what I'm saying now specifically about my psoriasis. I began thinking, well, Chinese traditional medicine says that I am dispersing wet heat, the bad word, moist heat. And as any metaphysician would ask, what is this that I am dispersing? What is this heat that I am seeking to get rid of? Where did it come from? I know it's temporary because I didn't always have it. So I know it started somewhere, and eventually it will have dispersed all of its energy and will be gone. Of course, the big question is, will it outlive me, or will I outlive it? The Declaration of Principles that I learned in religious science says we believe in the control of conditions by the power of our mind. And meaning mind, the big mind. We believe in the control of conditions by the power of this mind. We believe in the healing of the sick from the power of this mind. Really? Do we really? Do we really believe in a world that works for everyone? Do we believe that world includes me when I'm lying in bed scratching, or more accurately, itching and trying not to scratch? Do we really believe the laws of physics, that this structure in me, or this structure that I am, is passing? As I lay in my bed, my work was to see myself free of psoriasis and to ask myself, what mental gymnastics, denial, spiritual bypass would I have to engage in to no longer be itchy? Or would I realize that my condition is a response to my thoughts and my feelings about those thoughts? In other words, energy. Is my experience and is your experience, no matter what it is, simply about energy? Now, this damp heat that I'm holding on to, that is wanting to disperse in this dissipative structure called psoriasis, how can I handle that? What can I do with it? Number one, work with the understanding that the most famous, most important words in the Bible are, and it came to pass. Get that? It came to pass. 2, pay attention to what is creating your experience. And know, absolutely incontrovertibly, that it is thought and feeling. If I were to ask you, and I've done this often in classes, in the scale of things, what comes first? What happens first? The thought of a thing or the feeling about it? Thought? How many people vote for thought? How many people vote for feeling? It's thought. It is thought. As my teacher once said to me, gave this example, he said, well, you walk home, you get home, you don't see your wife anywhere. You say, well, that's kind of curious. You walk into the house, nothing. You walk into the bedroom, and there she is, making passionate love with your best friend. Well, your first thought is not, oh, hi, Bill, how are you? Nice to see you. You have a thought about this. This should not be happening. And I have feelings about this happening. You see, it's the thought that comes first, and then it's the feelings that you have about the thought that are the impulse for the dissipative structure, for the energy that must be expressed. So, work with the law, understand the laws. 2, pay attention to thought and feeling that's creating it. And the last one is practice non-attachment to the outcome. What I see people struggling with now in the wake of the U.S. presidential election is the attachment to the outcome. And an inability, and now look at it this way. There's attachment and there's detachment. And those two are linked together so inextricably that when I try and detach from the outcome, I am as equally as involved as if I were trying to attach to the outcome. It is non-attachment that is the solution. non-attachment. It's that stoic reality of letting what is be what is. I meditated on this for a long time that night. And one of the things that emerged was the word free. And a pattern of thought that I needed to be free from. There was something about that that didn't feel right. There was something about that that felt too close to detachment. And so I had to sit with that for a while till I understood that there was another type of freedom. There was another type of freedom. It's the type of freedom, for example, that... Remember when Russia invaded the Ukraine? Everybody said that Zelensky would be out of there as quick as he possibly could, and that the Ukraine would collapse in a matter of days. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. You have to ask yourself why. Why did all of these wonderfully educated and knowledgeable people think that he would run and that the country would collapse? It's because they thought of freedom as freedom from something. Freedom from oppression, freedom from danger, freedom from death, freedom from whatever. And that's what I was thinking about, freedom from my psoriasis. But what's the point of being free of something if you're not free for something? If you're not free to go to something? All of this freedom that we're so intent on holding on to is maybe misplaced. Zelensky said it never entered his mind to leave. Why would I leave? It never entered the minds of his people that they would just roll over and let themselves be destroyed. I'm happy to say that I'm going to be here next week. Thank you. And next week, and if I can have the slide now, if you don't mind. Next week, I'm going to be talking to you about Timothy Snyder's new book on freedom. Timothy Snyder is a history professor and a philosopher, really, at Yale. And he has written this book on freedom. It's a companion book to the one he wrote previously while thinking about upcoming events, called On Tyranny. I want to share with you what I think is the key to positive freedom. And we'll explore this more together next week. Muslims pray to Allah by touching their foreheads to the earth and recognizing that they are of the earth. In other words, that they're part of the laws of physics. Entropy, dissipative structures. But in so doing, they also ensure that their head is closer to the earth and that their heart is closer to heaven. The head below the heart. It's exactly the opposite of the way we tend to live in the West. It seems to me that this gesture is a code. It is full of intention and pregnant with meaning. It is in itself a gesture that I believe is the force to create a world that works for everyone. So ends the lesson, and so it is. Namaste.
That was very insightful.
Thank you so much.
Brother, brother, come walk with me. Show me the tops of the canyons above the sea, and say, look around you, your kingdom's wide. Carry the weight of this world with pride. I am humble and I'm confused. There is no mountain I've found here that I can move. And you say, sweet love, your heart is great. So will you follow it closely and let it show you your fate, and keep playing for love, playing for peace, playing for light, come down and set me free, playing to save, playing for change, playing for peace. Keep playing for love, playing for peace, playing for light, come down and set me free, playing to save, playing to change, playing for peace. Sister, sister, lay your burden down. Keep your heart wide open and hear the sound. It's all around you. Your kingdom's wide. So carry the weight of this world with pride. I am humble and I'm confused. There is no mountain I found here that I can move. And you say, sweet love, your heart is great. So will you follow it closely and let it show you your fate? Sing with me. Keep praying for love, praying for peace, praying for light, come down and set me free, playing to save, playing for change, playing for peace. Let's sing it again. Keep playing for love, playing for peace, playing for light, come down and set me free, playing to save, playing for change, playing for peace. Keep playing for love, brother, brother, sister, sister, playing for love. La, la,
Something unusual about this particular talk, I wrote a monograph of the talk. It's all available word for word. So if anyone is interested in that, I will make that available, and maybe it might be something you want to refer back to. Okay? All right, Greg?
So, one more time, let's hear it for Jay Krebs and Leona Cash. We are blessed. Thank you so much. And again, for Reverend Terry, for such an inspiring talk. How could we not want a world that works for everyone? We really do want that. Whether you're here in person or online, you can give via e-transfer, which can be addressed to donations@unityofvancouver.org. Just a reminder, we now have childminding on Sundays for children ages 3 to 10. So if you know of anyone who wants to take advantage of this service, let them know. And check out our Course in Miracles study group live this Tuesday from 12:30 to 2:30 right here at Unity on the lower level. And for those of you who would like to contribute a little time to Unity, I'll leave that for a minute because Kyler's going to come up and say something about that. And finally, our amateur night, our amateur talent show night is coming up on Friday, November 22nd. So what's your hidden talent? A song, a dance, a story, or some great jokes, some poetry? Whatever it is, we want to see you shine. So please enter your special talent by November 17th. You can register on our website. All together now, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous goal. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And look forward to seeing you next week.